War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, the place where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We appreciate you hanging out with us for even just a few minutes of your very hard-earned time just to check in with us and see what's going on, see what we're talking about. We appreciate you stopping by over here. On this live stream, as has been the case throughout all of Auburn football season, we are reacting initially, no stats, no real stats discussion, no big analysis or anything like that, just gut reaction to Auburn versus Houston in the Birmingham Bowl. Your Auburn Tigers do fall to the Houston Cougars in the end. And a outcome that I don't think should have been too surprising to most Auburn fans, but I do think that there was obvious reason to think that we could have and should have won this matchup. But we'll get into that. I want to hear your thoughts and your reactions, all this. That's what's on the table for tonight, and want to hear from you. A couple things that you can do for me as we get things started tonight. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't done so already. We appreciate you doing that. It does help spread it out to other Auburn fans. Share it out on social media. We're broadcasting on Facebook and Twitter as well. You guys can do some similar things there. Invite some more people in to be a part of our little family within the Auburn family. And right now in the comments section, make sure you are posting whether you are where you're watching from, City, State, International, all that good stuff with the War Eagle. And listen, I know today's not a fun day, but hey, it's still great to be an Auburn Tiger because you could be an Alabama fan. And even if you get a national championship out of that, it still means you're an Alabama fan. So it's always better to be an Auburn Tiger. Let's see who's all in here in the chat already. We got Russell Shoemaker here. War Eagle to all. Thank you for reminding everybody to hit that like button. Corey's here. Good to see you. And Corey, is this actual like breaking news? I've been on the road. I'm actually back in studio, as you can tell behind me. Don't get used to the Christmas lights. They'll be going away soon, so enjoy them while they're here. Probably, I shouldn't say like after this stream, but soon. But we're back in studio for this one. But did John Madden officially just pass away? Is that true, or is there something else I'm missing there? I've been on the road, so I haven't been able to check in on news and stuff like that. But if that's the case, then sad to hear that. RIP to Auburn football. Yes, it is a sad day today to deal with some of that stuff. Big Simps here. Good to see you. Mad because my bowl of cereal fell. Oops. Well, it's at least you've got something maybe not so serious to be mad about. Rob says his reaction in so many emojis. Yeah, listen, I understand the initial reaction after every loss is usually one of anger, sadness, bargaining, all those stages of grief and stuff. And so that's why we kind of talk about this as your therapy session, to get out thoughts, feelings, impressions, and maybe talk through some of them. My hope is here that you don't take away me just trying to explain everything away, or tell you that your thoughts or opinions are invalid, but maybe just like, let's talk through some of the things, why you feel that way. What are some of the reasons behind it? Just things of why the game performed the way it did. Russell says needs better O-line performance, a quarterback transfer, a younger guy, wide receiver, hands, defensive depth, depth, zebras with 2020 and unbiased. Well, if that's just not the most, complete list, I don't know what is. And if you're gonna, I think one thing, though, he's being funny here, it shows, is that I hope everybody rests now knowing that there were much bigger issues than one player, one coach, one system, one thought process, one way of calling plays. The issues for this team and this program in this season were vast, and today was a microcosm of all of that. So your point is taken very well there. Now, I want to say this, and I'm not trying to pick on Parker here, but I've seen a lot of this happen, as we did with the Bo stuff. And he's saying, Finley, whatever. Hope Harsin hits the pole as soon as the game ended. Have no clue why he doesn't trust Demetrius Davis. Remember, the guy behind the guy is always the most popular one. It's been the case for Bo. It was going to be the case for TJ when he got the starting job, and it'll be the case for Demetrius Davis after that. The thing that I struggle with in terms of this type of thought process is, why do you assume that Demetrius Davis is the answer? just because he's sitting there on the sideline? No, I guess one of the thoughts and rationales could be, hey, couldn't get worse. Yeah, it could. It could. It could get a lot worse. You could be Florida right now. But in all seriousness though, listen, I think Demetrius Davis, from what I see, what I hear, seems to be a great talent. There's a reason he hasn't played. Think past that first little reaction to why maybe he isn't playing should tell you some things. And listen, I hope you, when I say that, you hear me, that I'm not assuming that he's a bad player, but there's a reason these things aren't taking place. I just realized I'm not here. I'm gonna have to do something really random here, guys, and I apologize in advance. I'm gonna put this little thing up on the screen for you guys to check out because my power cord isn't working. But check out this link, this little poster here for the Booster Club. We'll talk more about it in just a little bit, but stay tuned for just a second. All right, I'm sure you heard all that rustling around in the background, but that just saved us from my computer losing power. Yeah, you plug things up after you've been traveling and you forget to actually turn the little whole unit back on that powers this thing. Anyway, we're back on. So yeah, just in general with this, and I stress this a lot about ways we should approach our opinions about the quarterbacks post Bo. We shouldn't blame TJ or Demetrius or even and anybody in this situation because the problems with this team are much bigger than just one quarterback. Really, if we're going to really pinpoint it somewhere, you know where I'm going to go with that. And I think that was very evident this. Let's see. I understand why Harsin went after TJ now, only to push Bo to be more confident in himself. He was planning on Bo getting hurt. He wasn't planning on Bo getting hurt. Yeah, I mean, I think that's not the only reason, Big Simp, that he brought him in. I think he wanted to give somebody who had some SEC experience a legitimate shot to start. And if he had done better than Bo and proven he was better, which he's not, and we have to get to a point where that's an okay thing to say. Based off of the performance that we've seen, he is not the better quarterback than Bo. We don't know that compared to Demetrius Davis, but that's just what we have to work with. But in the same token, we can't sit here and say that he sucks because we don't know that because he hasn't had a fair body of work to go with. But now you can see that both those things are not mutually exclusive. They can be true. But I do think that he was brought in for a number of reasons. We needed a solid backup. Your backup at that point was an unproven Demetrius Davis or Grant Loy. And no offense to Grant Loy, but he's not winning an SEC championship. So that's really why he was brought in for more than just that. Auburn football should have a prescription label, may cause dizziness. It causes more than that. It just causes headaches, swelling, diarrhea, all that good stuff. John, good to see you. By the way, Corey is one of our Booster Club members. And if I got to say hello to anybody else, I'm sorry, I'll catch you here on the back end. But John is a channel member, a Booster Club member. Thank you so much, sir, for your support. Neil says it simply bad War Eagle. It wasn't all bad though, was it? We had a kicker who's a backup make both his field goals today. 3 interceptions, didn't capitalize, or 2 interceptions, however many it was. He didn't capitalize off of them. You had an offense respond in the third quarter, which hasn't happened a lot. And there was a lot of things that I think you can at least take away as good moments. The overall picture is not that great though. Let's see here. 2 more days in quarantine, perhaps. Well, I hope that you're doing okay. I hope that that's not going too well for you. All right, we did get confirmation here. I know I'm a little behind in chat here. John Madden apparently passed away today. I'll be honest with you, I completely am oblivious to that. I do want to talk about in our reaction a little bit about the experience in what is it called, Protective Stadium. Just kind of overall thoughts and impressions. I think that is a fair discussion to have there. But I know right now we're kind of just getting into initial reactions of things that we saw on the field. Steve says, I hope we can fix this horrible situation. Can't pass, can't catch, can't block, can't tackle. It is such a mess. Just don't know where to start. Well, this is what you get when you transition a regime. And listen, I know there's already the discussions being had And I'm not necessarily trying to take us down this route tonight. There's people who are more in my camp about we shouldn't have fired Gus. Very fired up now because they kind of have a little bit of a point to make today. But also on the other end, some will say that we needed to make a change. But if you are okay with making the change, you have to be okay with what comes with it. And that's a bit of a rough start. Things don't just change over and get magically better. There's momentum being built in areas by Coach Harsin that aren't showing fruition yet. It is going to require everyone's least favorite word, patience. It's not a fun one, but it is the right one. I won my only 13 points on AU. It paid well. Is Dusty in here? Heard the Bucks are going to draft TJ. Oh boy. Dusty, I haven't seen him pop in yet, but I am behind in chat. So we'll see where he pops in. I think the targeting drills in practice have paid off. Listen, don't get me started. If there's one thing we can all agree today is that the targeting thing is absolutely horrendous, needs to be changed fundamentally, if not removed altogether. It is, I get just as mad about situations that happen for targeting for I've gotten mad about an Alabama player getting a targeting call because I hate this rule to that level. That should tell you something. I find every excuse I can to rub something in Alabama's nose. But the fact that I'm willing to defend an Alabama player and get mad about it, but that shows you how much this rule is ridiculous. It's awful. It's stupid. It is causing more injuries, in my opinion, than it is saving, because we've got defenders who do not know what they are allowed to do, and thus getting themselves pummeled and putting in bad situations. Big Simp has got the mentality that I think you're going to see a lot of people saying, well, we're a basketball school. And I'm not faulting you for that, but he says we'll feel better after tomorrow, after Bruce and Auburn whip LSU. We'll be talking a lot of basketball coming up here very soon, but we're not done putting all of this football stuff to bed yet. I haven't talked to Austin about this yet, but I hope if he's watching, we can get him back on to do a breakdown in grades session for the bowl game. An overall season breakdown and grades. And look, I know those aren't going to be the most exciting and fun ones to do, but we seem to have good conversations here about it. So we'll probably do that. And then I'll probably do some regular videos that you see, edited videos, where we discuss, maybe best wins, worst losses, best performance, things like that. We'll eventually move on to focusing more on non-football stuff, but it's still a lot to discuss as we end out the season here. And thankfully, it ended probably not a moment too soon. Steve says we are in need of a top flight quarterback. What tells you that we don't have that already on the roster? I would say TJ's performance today doesn't tell you that, but it's one performance with not all the tools available that he could have had. Also, we don't know what Demetrius Davis will or won't do. And we don't know what Holden Grenier is capable of. But if there is a great quarterback out there that can come in and win the job, bring him on in. Competition. The same thing that was said about TJ for Bo can be said about TJ and Demetrius and Holden if they bring someone else in. Competition makes everybody better, right? Kevin, thanks for being here. One of our channel members and Booster Club members, one of our dual. I come up with a name for you guys that are both channel members and Booster Club members because you guys rock. I need like a special name here. We need to come up with that. Russell, I appreciate that. I did enjoy my time in Birmingham, and I do apologize to the Booster Club members because, typically I share some things and special things with you guys on the app. I don't think they ever went through the Wi-Fi signal, cell signal service thing was just horrible. Absolutely. It was worse than Jordan Hare before they put up the Verizon towers up there on the stadium. Like, that was the worst signal experience I had. So it was kind of one of those things where I didn't publicize that we are going to be doing a lot because I anticipated something like this. But I hope you'll go check out the pep rally that I went to on the night before, on Monday night, because that was a lot of fun. A lot of people showed up for that, and I appreciate those of you that did already. Rob, I agree. I think it's fair to discuss the quarterback talk, but I mean, really, it's as simple as this: is once the O-line gets fixed, the rest of this gets fixed. It really is as simple as that. And, I don't say that just to kind of shut down all over conversation, but that's really, it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter who the head coach is. It doesn't matter who our water boy is. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is until we get an offensive line that can put together a pocket more often than not for them to stand in and create at least a gap in the inside for us to run the ball. We will not be long-term successful as an offense. Devin brings up a great point. She's one of our Booster Club members too. Harsin has said he will play whoever performs in practice. So obviously he won the starting job. Perfect example there. I will say I had a conversation not recently, it was probably about a month ago, about this concept, about whether if you perform in practice, whoever performing in practice gets to start and play the most, and whether is there a point where we have to recognize that somebody may not just be a practice performer and they're the better option. It's a dangerous road to go down and perform in rewarding that type of behavior, in my opinion. And I think that's why I like that type of mentality. If you can't do it in practice, you shouldn't, you don't deserve the opportunity to do it on the field. And that's not saying Demetrius hasn't done that. It hasn't done his best. But if PJ's out there, he's the best option. And, people will go into these excuses. Oh, well, when Gus, it was like he plays favorites and all this stuff. That's such a weak argument. Such a weak argument. Doesn't help if you can't hit an elephant in the butt with a football. I will say that TJ was very off today. Not just overthrowing the ball. I mean, we're used to that, right? But underthrowing the ball a lot and short arming some passes. And I don't know why. Like, I even saw him kind of do this one time. I was with my brother-in-law for the game, and we both kind of did the same exact motion at the same time. Everything was like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing this? It's weird. Let's see. Tank 22 Heisman campaign begins just a little bit better line play. Tank goes berserk next year, establishing his draft status. Well, I think his draft status is pretty well established at this point. I think he's probably going to go mid levels of the NFL, but he will definitely at this point. But if he can put together a great season next year, and if we can convince him to stay for one more, he'll be sitting really good. I rooted for TJ ever since the GA State game. I must say TJ doesn't seem like he's the guy. I think Davis or Holden will be the guy in 23. But I don't know who the heck starts 22. Well, here's what the best solution that I can give you, Jack. Support whoever's out there. You can prefer somebody, right? In 2009, yes, I preferred Cody Burns over. Can't even remember his name now. That's how much I disliked the guy at the time. Gosh, have somebody help me. He broke a record for a little while. Wow, how am I? Chris Todd. It finally went in my head there. Chris Todd. I prefer that, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily had all the information that I was right. But I still could have supported Todd a little bit more than I was. So let's not be that way. Let's not be the Kyle of his college years, where he was a little bit, speaking personally about me, a little bit immature. Let's support who's ever out there. You were surprised he didn't go in the portal. Well, there's still time. He wasn't even on the bowl roster. Is that true? I listen, I didn't have a roster in front of me. There was very little cell service. So a lot of these things, I'm just kind of going off speculation, sometimes what you guys are saying. So I'll look that up and see if that was true. Be interesting to see what happened if that's the case. Teddy from Texas says, sorry for your loss. Go Gophers, beat West Virginia. It's always weird, Teddy, to see you being a Minnesota fan in Texas. It just always throws me off just a little bit. John says, I think I was the smart one. I slept through the game. Night shift worker challenges. Yeah, you probably listen. I will say this, after being in the stadium, I am thankful that we had a exciting game, a game that never got out of hand, a game where both teams had an opportunity to win. And it's all that you could really ask for when both teams are traveling. Obviously Auburn, very little traveling. But it's really all you could ask for as a fan paying money to be in the stands. A good game. that everybody had an opportunity to win, no blowouts. So you got to look at it from that perspective too. 5-game Eshon says listen, we're not going to mince words here. It is a 5-game losing streak. It's also been a very tough sled too at the end of the year. I hope a lot of people who were here for our preview show will remember this. We talked a lot about it. Houston's a good team, not a great team. They're a good team though. Got a lot of great athletes, and they showed that out today. And they almost got beat by us. So I think it should show you that Auburn, and I've been saying this the entire season. People on this network have been saying it this entire season. Auburn's had the potential to be much better record-wise than it looks like. Just couldn't finish. That's going to be the thing of this word of this year. Yeah, Rob. This listen. I'm not going to get into the whole Gus talk here, but yes, I found that very interesting. Especially some of the things I was being told about the relationship between Chip Lindsey and Gus. It makes you wonder if people had some wrong information. It's very interesting. We need to let Coach Harsin build his team. I agree. Listen, I've said this before. A coach should be given 5 years, 4 years to cycle through all the guys that were here previously, and then that 5th year to finally say, this is entirely my team. Most people aren't patient enough for that, so you'll never get that probably outside of some sustained success. But it's really what's going to have to happen there. Let's see here. Chandler Wooten said Harsin has his team going in the right trajectory, coming from a player. I like that. That means something. Well, it does, but you're also not going to see them saying anything contrary typically. You might get a rogue player here or there that speak their minds, but especially after you're coming off a loss, the last thing you want to be doing is like dogging each other and stuff like that. And Chandler, from what I understand, is a pretty decent guy, so I expect that of him. So I'm not saying that he's lying in any way, but I am saying those are things that are just kind of said because you have to say them sometimes. Now, I will say there is momentum. We've talked a lot about recruiting here in the past month with early signing period and all that kind of stuff. We've even done videos about our favorite players and of that signing class so far. That's got a lot of momentum and probably some more going forward with that. You've seen them be able to compete with the best and still have a wealth of talent that hasn't been, everybody's favorite word, developed yet. So there's a lot of reasons to still be excited in this Auburn football program. But I understand, this is the reaction show, the therapy show. We're just getting the feelings out right now. Russell says hot take, and I agree with this hot take. Bo not getting injured. I won't say 4 more equals 4 more wins, a 10-win season. I would still say that we would have probably lost to Alabama because they're better than us. I think we caught magic in a bottle and failed to take advantage of it. But you would probably see at least an 8-win team with Bo at the helm. Bo provides more opportunities, a better skill set for the skill sets that we either have or don't have in certain areas of our team. And I think you saw that display today. Teddy says targeting should only be called if the player is headhunting, and we all know that when we see it. You guys, you got guys running 4.0 40s, and we are slowing the tape down to see if a helmet grazed another helmet. Don't get me started on it, man. Chris, love it. Optimistic person here. Transition is painful, but necessary sometimes. I would transition is necessary when there's a transition in place. What I will question is whether the transition itself was necessary, meaning we didn't have to be here at this point, but we are, so we might as well ride it out and be patient. So I agree with you mostly there. Targeting calls are different in different conferences. Pac-12 refs are going to call something different every time. Well, I think that goes just even outside of conferences too. I think you got to remember that it's a very subjective type of call, and they're trying to keep it within guidelines. But it's like I said, it needs to be done away with or changed at the foundational level. You're gonna miss Smoke Monday's name on Saturdays. I think Smoke has similar to Bo, a love-hate relationship in terms of the perception that there is for him with the Auburn fans. He is very much a hype guy. You saw him on their sidelines cheering his teammates on, getting the fans hyped up after he got tossed. But there were two opportunities. It's the story of Smoke, I think, is what a competitor, and boy, could he lay the wood on some people. But he struggled in some other areas where we expected some better abilities, and also was prone to get some penalties. I think someone told me that was 5 targeting penalties on the year for him that were either called or at least attempted to be called on him. If that's true, that's a lot. Brian says that what is one thing Harsin has improved? We went backwards in every meaningful way this year. Well, it's a big statement and a big question. I would say I was going to say he went forward in recruiting, but that would require you being a top 10 level class, because I think Gus's last class was 7, ranked 7th. If you enjoy such things as rankings, you shouldn't, but that's just opinion. Let me think on that one. That's an interesting thought to bring up, Brian. I don't necessarily agree that going backwards is necessarily a bad thing in the first year, but it is frustrating, and it wasn't ideal, and I didn't want to do it, but here we are. Let's see here. Oh, Bruce, great question. I do want to talk some about the stadium experience too. I'd love to hear some of y'all's impressions about what you saw if you were there too, because we had a great. Please describe the crowd swing, Houston significant, percentage breakdown. I heard a Houston fan give their take on this. He says you not outnumber us 9-1, and so I think 90% to 10% is a little bit not true. I'd say it's probably closer to 80-20, but that's still a wide margin for Auburn. I mean, they tried to do in-stadium experiences and giveaways and stuff, and the crowd noise dictated. Of course, the Auburn fans all got together and beat the Houston guys and fans every time. So that was the breakdown. Auburn fans showed out, even in a loss. I cannot stress this enough, and we need to keep doing this. Bowl committees select us because of the way we respond, not just watching on TV, but showing up in the bowl games and participating. And it's a huge thing, guys. And we are some of the best at that. And that was showed out again today. From my vantage point, it was a sellout crowd in the sense that tickets were sold out conventionally, but you could buy them on a secondary market. It was a great crowd, I thought, and a great venue. Birmingham Bowl looks to be in good hands if they keep this bowl happening in Birmingham, and it's here at this new facility, because they've got some kinks to work out. Can they get some Wi-Fi in there? Can they prepare their vendors for more crowds than UAB was ready or has ever seen in their life? Those are some minor tweaks and things like that, but overall, loved my experience there. Okay, I think I'm still way behind here in the. You should have had a carrier pigeon instead of looking for a signal downtown. A signal downtown is non-existent. I've heard that, but I was hopeful for this game we'd find something different. Yeah, the orange face mask are liked by a lot of people. I still prefer the navy ones to myself, and then the white ones. White ones are pretty clean though. Let's rate. Bubba says on Facebook, our last drive, Tank gets 8 yards. We throw 3 consecutive incomplete passes. That play calling reminded me of Bobo when we got a running back who just ran 8 yards. He could too. Okay, sorry, I probably misread that a little bit there. I think your basic gist is, why are we throwing the ball when Tank was driving? Well, again, play calling, when I hear critiques of that, it's always funny to me, because if the play had worked, you'd be saying the opposite thing. But now you're saying, and I'm not saying you specifically, Bubba. If there's a common theme that I hope you hear on this channel, is it's never as bad or as good as you think it is. We've talked about that. I haven't said this in a while. There's emotions, and then there's reality, or context. Somewhere in the middle is the reality. And sometimes it's a little bit over here more with context, and sometimes it's a little bit more over here with emotions. But the play calling, just like I said with TJ and assessments of him in terms of whether he is a good quarterback or a bad quarterback, it's not fair because of what he's working right now. If you're going to make big judgments about Harsin's play calling, like overall over one game, it's a little early to be doing that. I'm not saying you are, Bubba, but I would just, we don't have all the information. Just because us in the stands can look at something and say, well, this makes sense to us, there may be a reason that they called what they did. War Eagle from Richmond, Virginia. We still have basketball. We do. And while I agree with that, I hope we still, there's this War Eagle, anyways, or at least we're a basketball school now. I know that's said and fun, but to me, it kind of irks me a little bit. And I get a little bit about it because we shouldn't be that way. We should just be happy with everybody, everything. And I know that's Pollyanna of me, but I get what you're saying, Chris. All right. I am way behind in chat here. Way. I've just seen how far I am back here. Okay. I'm going to skip forward a little bit because I realized how far by I am. And we'll try to keep up a little bit more here with what's being discussed at this moment. So if you had a question or comment earlier that you wanted addressed, bring it back forward if you can. And make sure you're smashing that like button if you haven't already. Let's see here. Against Mississippi State, take an injured Bo Nix out while Auburn is still leading and put Finley in. We might have won that game and had 7 wins. Yeah, you can say that, but you can also make a case the other way. It could have gotten worse based off today, just looking at one game and using that to make an assessment. I could make a case that Finley would have made it worse, but it's still just one game though. Clint is here, everybody. Say hello to him. He's the uniform guy. Got to see him and hang out with him at the pep rally on Monday night, which was a lot of fun. Let's see here. Can we stop showing up in the Birmingham Bowl, though? Though, yes, we travel. Listen, I would love that. Here's what I would say to you. You should just be thankful that you're in a bowl game because there's how many bowls are there now? 30 something. Clint, you know this number. Help me out. 30, maybe 40 something bowls at this point. So there's at least probably 30 to 40 football teams that don't even get in one. Just be thankful that you're in one, that you're playing in postseason bowl, and that imagine if your season ended with that disappointing loss to Alabama. And yes, it ended with a disappointing loss to Houston, but you got one more opportunity to end the season on a good note. And it's one more opportunity to get tape on players that you want to start building for the future, give them reps and time. Now you would hope in a bowl game that you'd get to a position where you get to utilize some of that talent that you never got to use. I was hoping we'd see Demetrius Davis, but we didn't. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in the cards this game. War, I hope, Clint, you see your War Dustbuster crowd here already. Sometimes it's not as important as what you call, but when you call the play. That's a fair point. Yes. Play calling is a combination of calling a good play at the right time. Right. Well, it's anyway. I'm always interested at some of the people that just love to be negative and pop in just for that's. I've never seen a positive comment in their life. John, thank you for being here. I appreciate your support, sir, and you always being here. Hats off for Chandler Wooten making plays in this game. Pritchett played well too. Smoke Monday as well till they got him. He played okay, I thought. Stinks. It does. It sucks that it happened in their last game. It's the last time I hate this. It has to happen to somebody. If it didn't happen to us, it would happen to Houston. Happy that Chandler got that interception. It's a great way to end his career out. I believe this is the end of his career. So yeah. Jack, let me address this here. And I know you don't mean it exactly as the way you do. It's funny because the people, and I know this is probably not you, Jack, that make this comment that you're pissed off that people are still talking about Gus, but these are a lot of times the same people that will bring Gus up to make excuses for the problems that are happening now. Can't be both ways. So Gus is part of our history, and he's a part of the Auburn family, whether you want him to be or not. And I'm not talking about you specifically, Jack, but just in general. So he's going to be part of the equation and part of the discussion because we are transitioning from the Coach Malzahn era. It's just the way it is. Let's see here. Back it up. Got to find where we are on this one. In your opinion, would Delane ask, why do you think Harsin didn't give Demetrius Davis any reps today? But could he possibly be waiting to let Demetrius Davis take over in the spring? No. If he's not on the field, he didn't perform well enough in practice. I've said this all season. If you listen to Coach Harsin's press conferences, he is very good at telling you exactly what you need to know without giving away too much information. He really is. I mean that. Like, I have gotten more out of Coach Harsin in his press conference than any other coach before him, because he just says exactly how it's supposed to be. Now, he's not going to come out and tell you what his plays are and who's starting, if there's a quarterback controversy or something like that. But if he's told you, if they don't perform in practice, and that means not just that they didn't do good, somebody may have done better. TJ was on the field because he was the best option, and he gave us the best opportunity to win. I think that needs to settle in to some of us, that Demetrius Davis may not be ready, and that we have to be okay with that. Cohen says, I've finally accepted that we aren't good. Are we good in the sense that our record shows us that? You probably have a case there. But I have seen opportunities for this team to beat the best in college football and come very close, and they just weren't able to finish. I would counter you and say I finally accepted that we are not good at finishing, and that no one can argue. Let's see here. Back it up. So to you, E2C, what is a successful Auburn season on average? That's another big question with a lot of different things that you have to factor in. I think, the expectation should be 8 wins minimum. I think, it should be probably more often than not 9 or higher, but I think 8 wins is the bare minimum, because that's factoring in you winning your non-conference, which most years Auburn should be expected to do, even with at least one formidable opponent. That is factoring in, Auburn beating the likes of Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and then at least 1 or 2 of LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. I think 8 wins is definitely the floor. They will only change the targeting call when the defenders start getting injured, trying to adjust to make tackles in a split moment. I will say, I think this year, Big Simp, we have made more room in the argument against targeting the call than we have in a long time. Do I think there's going to be anything change intimately? No, but I think there's more on tape to prove, and the conversation is shifting more in the talking heads, which is kind of what gets your momentum going for making change, right? When you get the media kind of talking about it, because when it's becomes evident to them they can't hide it anymore, it's kind of like, well, if they're not hiding or they're not towing the line, because if you notice when targeting the rule came out, all the talking heads of sports, of college football, were like, this is necessary. It has to be done this way. You're starting to see that happen more often than not now, and I think that's a good thing. I think we made some headway in getting some things changed. Let's see here. Stan White on the radio thought Demetrius Davis wasn't getting playing time because he thought Harsin didn't want to throw him to the Wolves to start off with. The O-line, wide receiver inconsistency, just his opinion, but curious. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I think, Stan's going to have more insight into the program than we ever are. So I would take his opinion with high relevancy, and I think that he is probably onto something a little bit there, but I also think that TJ was the best option. Even you don't throw somebody to the Wolves and expect them to be great. I'm going to say something here. It's going to trigger a lot of people. They can't all be a Bo Nix. Anyway. it's fair that he's in our history, but we aren't transitioning. We have transitioned. This is Harsin's team, plain and simple. Well, but then you hear a lot of the time the discussion is, well, that's Gus's players. And I'm not saying that's you saying that, Jack, but you'll see that. So I think you're going to need to be a little bit more forgiving of people that want to still talk about that aspect, because it's a fair point to bring up, but it has to go both ways on that. We are still transitioning. The transition is still going on. I would say that transition is basically complete when we start next season, because there's not a lot of factors outside of recruiting and cycling players out that have to take place after that. But the transition is still ongoing. Do you think some offensive coaching changes will be coming when Davis gets here? When Austin Davis gets here? No, because Austin Davis has not been an offensive coordinator before, and I don't think he has that type of pool. Coach Harsin will keep who he wants to. You didn't learn that with Cornelius Williams. I don't know, but it's going to teach you that lesson. I think the staff is probably going to remain the same. The only question I would have would be at the wide receiver position. Is Esau going to remain there? There's a case to be made for Trevon Reed after what he did for recruiting. Can we find somewhere to squeeze him in? So that might be a thing. Let's see here. James, I agree. Let's give him a chance. I try not to, no offense. Well, never mind. I won't go there about that. Like 2009 and 2012, what that we need a quarterback is a transfer that could lead us back to the SEC title game and hopefully maybe even a playoff appearance. Transfers, as I've tried to express here on this channel, are a Band-Aid, and sometimes a really good Band-Aid. The problem is usually they don't let the wound, to let a wound heal, you have to give it a little bit of air sometimes to heal quicker. So sometimes transfers are a Band-Aid that when ripped off, expose the real problems of the program. And if it's a really good Band-Aid, like a Cam Newton, it really covers up those deficiencies. But what happened? Exposed a lot of things. So yes, I agree that a transfer quarterback, if they're available, if they want to be here, bring them in. Competition makes everybody better, but it's not necessarily the right solution all the time. Playing this schedule in a transition year is tough. It was. It's regardless, and we had our chances and fought well. The future is bright. So let's really think about that. And I think we'll have some more discussions about this when we grade the whole year out. But, Georgia is the first one that comes to mind where we were just out of it, out of the game, no chance. Anybody else think of one where we were out of it and didn't have a chance at it? That's pretty good. In year one, Auburn was competitive. And I think that was, I think go back to someone else's point. What's the difference between Gus and Harsin? That probably one. I'd have to look more into it, but it seemed like there were less games where we just weren't in it. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of me thinking off the top here and trying to go back to the news. Minds of Conflict says opportunities don't reflect in the record books, only wins and losses, and we have a lot of the latter, and that's okay. It is. It has to. You have to get to a point in your life where you realize that winning and losing isn't everything. There's much bigger things that you have to take value in, or else it'll be a very unhappy life. I'm trying to catch up here in some chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. My wish for 2022 is fixing the O-line. Defense will be outstanding. Now let's take a minute here and take a beat. Not saying you're wrong, Neil, but remember how we were saying the defense was going to be outstanding last year with everything that we had coming back, even with some transfers out and bringing in Derek Mason. And what happened? People look good on paper, but let's see what happens when they get on the field. This year is case in point, especially for the defense. I'm excited about what Coach Harsin is putting together in the defensive staff, and I have all expectations this is going to be good. But let's wait and see. And it's going to be a long 300 something days before we get to really look at that. 200 something probably. Lee says he hopes that Austin Davis can fix I don't know, where did they go? I pulled the wrong thing up. Austin Davis can fix the O-line. He's not going to have much to do with the offensive line, at least in year one. Remember, for all intents and purposes, from what we understand of his role, this more quarterback focused, while that will play with the offensive lines as it does the rest of the offense, he is not going to probably affect the offensive line recruiting. His performance of his quarterbacks will. And if he takes over play calling and does a good job, that will. But I wouldn't expect Austin Davis to be making much of a difference in that area, at least in year one. Joe, War Eagle, good to see you, sir. One of our Booster Club members and channel members. Thank you so much for being here, sir. Wood Delane says a lot of people may disagree, but Auburn is legitimately a good quarterback away from being a contender. Defense is solid, just needs somebody who can consistently make the deep ball throws. I do disagree with you there. An elite quarterback does not fix this team. It doesn't. Cam Newton doesn't fix this team. The offensive line could not, would not, should not, I mean, Dr. Seuss here, do anything to support that. Couple that with wide receivers that can't catch the ball, couldn't line up properly. Problems are much bigger, and defensive backs that can't figure the transition to this new style. The problems are endless on this team this year, but we're working through a transition year, and that's the kind of things that happens. See, that's the bad thing that's missed the day. We're all mad about this game, but 8 months for another football game. I'm so mad about it, and I'm so frustrated. It's frustrating to end on a loss, but it's frustrating regardless of when it ends, because now we've got to wait 8 months for it to come back. I'd agree that they are Gus's players because he recruited one offensive tackle in the last 4 years at Auburn. He also recruited the crappy level of wide receivers we have. They weren't crappy. They just weren't coached well, clearly. That's why the wide receiver coach got fired. It is why it is. You saw a decline from when Cody Burns coached them as opposed to Cornelius Williams. I loved Cornelius Williams. Jack, I think the thing that I'm trying to get across to you, buddy, in the whole conversation about the Gus thing is it can't be both ways about it. We got to have a little bit of a fair discussion about Gus versus Harsin and all that kind of stuff. It's not one or the other. I hope that's coming across, but maybe it's not. I do like this. Scotty wrote, I don't think we need a transfer quarterback. We need office supply. I think you got auto-corrected, sir, which is hilarious. Offensive line, but that is hilarious. Neil, I know this has nothing to do with football, but I'm not a hockey fan just because I can never get into it, but I do love the fact that they just let them fight. It's hilarious. Cheryl from Facebook says, good. I don't know if we've seen you before, Cheryl, but thank you for being here. TJ had overthrows and underthrows. The play calling was fine. Give him time. Get over the doom and gloom if you possibly can. I listen, I agree with you on this. Not a great performance by TJ Finley today. And if we do a breakdown grade, it'll be interesting to see where I want to grade him out on. This is not a final verdict on what type of quarterback he is or can be for Auburn, but it is something to start thinking about. He did not have a great supporting cast to complement him, but he still didn't show a lot today. There's a lot to take away from to start forming our decisions on what TJ Finley will be. This is an interesting comment. Love listening to your opinions. This is the most biased Auburn chat I've found. Thanks for your input. Did you say the most biased? I'm struggling to understand if James is happy with this or upset with all this, because I've seen various opinions up and down on the chat right here. So I don't know where the bias is coming from. All right, let's see here. We'll get a couple more opinions in here as we kind of get towards the end of our show here. Neil says the defense hasn't been AU's problem. I would disagree, sir. We lost a couple of games because of the defense. We also lost a couple of games because of the offense. Now it's a team sport, but the defense has been Auburn's problem at times. Today, though, probably not. It's probably just an overall team loss. That's funny. Cam Newton single-handedly. All right, I'm just trying to. I know some of these. I'm trying to not cover too many of the repetitive questions and comments and stuff like that, so we can get on some things. You believe that coaching was the problem today? How so, Joe? Let me know there in the comment section below. Russell asks, are you planning an E2C Wednesday show around the Monumental basketball game tomorrow night? Well, listen, you're the second person at least that's asked me that question. I guess we could. If you guys want to stay up late and do that, we possibly could, if you would like to. So maybe stay tuned for tomorrow. Subscribe, hit that notification bell if you would like to have an opportunity to know when we go live, because sometimes we have these scheduled and sometimes we do these random, like tonight when I can never get to them. Mississippi State's losing to Texas Tech. Oh, Bulldogs. Oh, wow. SEC struggling, man. Corey says, what's up with the center? I know he wasn't a starter, but you're throwing dead ducks between your legs. It's a guy who hadn't started is really what it is. And, I guess it doesn't bode well for the future based off of one game, but we'll see what happens, right? I think I don't know that you can take a lot of solid information away from this game for the future, but what you can is kind of make an overall assessment on the year, and it was a microcosm of what happened throughout the year. Weakest Link says that TJ Finn is an okay number 2 quarterback, but he is not the answer long-term on that offense. I would say he's an excellent backup quarterback. In fact, he's so good that he came in when our starting quarterback was struggling, the worst he ever has, and marched down and won us the game. I hope you all hear this when I'm talking about this. And TJ Finley deserves credit for some great things that he's done this year. Did not have a great game today. Did not. It was borderline terrible, if I'm being completely honest, just kind of reacting to it, which is what this show is all about. But I think I would give him a little bit more credit than that. Brian, thank you so much, sir, from Minnesota. It's great to see. I love it when you guys post where you're watching from, and that's why I asked for it at the beginning of the show, because I love to see where everybody is watching from. And we've had people in, the UK, further overseas, Minnesota, California, Texas, all over, middle Iowa, all kinds of people from everywhere. It's not like you really have a job. Of course, we're going live. I do have a job, Big Simp. I do. My job is here. And I would say that the only thing that I'm hesitating from going live tomorrow night, just is some scheduling things. But I would say the more you guys ask for it, the more it's probably going to happen at this point. So if you want the content, sometimes all you have to do is ask for it. James, thank you for the kind words so much there. Let's see here. All right. Just catching up on some of these, and I think we're going to have to kind of wrap most of it. I think we've covered the majority of it. Here's some things that I really want you all to take away, and I'll maybe address a few more comments here after this. About the Birmingham Bowl as a bowl and the new facility. Facility was great. I thought they weren't prepared for the capacity, nor the Birmingham needs to figure out their signal situation for cell phones and stuff like that. But outside of that, I had a great time. It was a great game with opportunities for both teams to win the game. The takeaway for Auburn football is that the problems that plagued us all year reared its ugly head again. And that's really what you need to take away. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad look for the future. I had hoped we'd get a better look for the future, meaning getting to play some more players that we wouldn't have seen. Clint says, I saw you there. But yeah, take that away. Houston, congrats on the win. You guys have a pretty good team. I think it speaks to Cincinnati probably being at least somewhat the real deal. Knock on wood. We're all rooting for you, Cincinnati, but I think Houston had a pretty decent team here. Wednesday show. Okay, fine. We will go live. I will make it happen. If you guys will show up, I will make it happen. We'll go live tomorrow night after the basketball game. Dang it. Yes, and listen, mine's a conflict had said it here best. The stadium is beautiful, just aesthetically. I just wish we'd had a better time in it. It was funny watching Dana Holgerson get all mad. By the way, do I have the coach wrong? I thought he used to be somewhat skinnier and have like a bad hairdo. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Anyway, so take those things away. Great venue. I thought, for being a lower tier bowl, they did a great job with everything for the most part. The venue's great. Great game. Houston's got a good team. Auburn, you're not the best team this year, but slowly but surely, these things will hopefully get better. So I hope you do take that away from this live stream. And we're going to put the reactions and stuff away. We will come back and do some more videos, probably grading things out with Austin. I hope you'll come back for those. We will talk about that hopefully here soon. So stay tuned for that. And lots of basketball stuff coming up here. Lots of stuff coming up here. And I'm laughing at some of the other comments that are coming through now on here because y'all are a good little family within the Auburn family. Couple reminders as we head out today. Please do make sure that you are subscribed along with the notification bell so you know when we do go live. So you know that when we do have a new video available. We've also got the podcast that you can get anywhere, but also here. Thank you guys for tuning in on Twitter and Facebook. Make sure you're following all the social media and check out the links in the description for ways that you can help support our content because it is mainly you guys supported, whether you're just watching or you're a Booster Club member here, on Patreon or a channel member here. Both of those things start at $1 a month. And we appreciate so many of you that have already been here that are a part of that tonight. And your support and keeping the lights on here at E2C Network Central. Speaking of lights, you may see better lighting coming up here soon because I got a little tool for Christmas that I'm going to be playing with. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. I know it wasn't the most fun discussions, but as always, you are the best little family within the Auburn family. And I appreciate you guys so much. I'm excited for tomorrow night. Let's hope we beat LSU. War Eagle.